Hi, and welcome back to Tales from the Gulag. And yes, it has been a long time. In fact, it would have been about May. And there's been a few different reasons for not getting back to the tales. Among them, I suppose, it's just been plain living in the afterglow of a Labor defeat in our elections here in Australia. But there have been other reasons, and once you've fallen off the horse, it is rather hard to get back on and get back into it. But anyway, impeachment is on in the US, and why do they hate Trump so much anyway? We all understand that politics has always been a dirty business, but the vehemence and the passion with which Trump has been pursued ever since 2015 has been really quite unbelievable. Well, anyway, it's on. Just this morning, I have watched some of Congress debating the articles of impeachment, which I assume will eventually be a done deal because the Democrats plainly have the numbers and they are determined to impeach Trump, whatever the facts. And this means that then the process will then move on to the Senate. And you know what? I'm actually glad, as I will explain later on. From day one of the Trump presidency, impeachment has always been mooted. Even before. Do you remember Peter Strzok's insurance policy email in which he told his lover, Lisa Page, that he had an insurance policy just in case of the unlikely event comes up that Trump actually wins the election? On day one, just minutes after the inauguration, the Democrats and Trump haters were all talking about impeachment already. He hadn't even had the opportunity yet to commit any high crimes or misdemeanours. But all they needed was some crime, some pretext that they could use to sell the idea to the American people. And now it seems that Pelosi and company are satisfied that they have it. I watched snippets of the proceedings before the Intelligence Committee, and there's an awful lot of it. And here is what I took away from what I saw. 1. No proper process. The rules had been made up so that they are rigged in favour of impeachment. And even so, when it came down to it, the rules seem to be made up on the fly, thanks to Schiff. Just some of these cases where objections and things are brought up, Schiff's response to it is quite interesting. Interviews were held in secret. Republicans could only see transcripts under supervision of a Democrat in a secure location. Republicans were not allowed to call their own witnesses except through the chair, and there's an awful lot that were not allowed. Republicans had their questioning of witnesses interrupted repeatedly, and so Schiff made up the rules as he went along. No proper process. Number 2, what was the actual evidence of wrongdoing by the president? Lots of hearsay. Only one of the 12 witnesses that were produced actually ever talked to the president. That's significant. The rest seemed to be what they heard somebody else to say, what somebody said to somebody else. 3, hearsay is presented as fact throughout. And 4, I watched 9 hours of the proceedings in front of the Judiciary Committee, and there were the 4 law professors. 3 of them were produced by the Democrats. 1 was called by the Republicans. Now, All 4 of them were actually Democrats. 3 of them were Democrat supporters and donors, and they were explaining how Trump could be impeached under the law. It does seem to me that their testimony was carefully crafted to produce a desired result. All 3 were Democrat voters. 1, Pamela Karlan, donated to Elizabeth Warren's campaign for 2020. That's one thing. But I did also come across some footage where she was in a panel and clearly came out as a Trump hater. And the 4th, Jonathan Turley, was the lone dissenting voice. He was the one that spoke on behalf of the Republicans. But it's interesting that he identified himself as a Democrat, as one who did not vote for Trump, and it seems he was the one of these law professors who was prepared to look at the evidence, at least objectively. All day long, the Democrats, including the 3 amigo law professors, were spouting hearsay as established fact. And one lone voice said that there was no basis for impeachment here, and to carry on will have dire consequences. And it was Jonathan Turley who also said that, yes, there was an abuse of power here, but it was on the part of this congressional committee. A really telling moment for me was when the 4 were asked if there was any bribery, any quid pro quo, any intimidation in the phone call, that famous phone call between Trump and President Zelensky. Not one of them raised their hand to say that there was. But what the heck? We'll carry on anyway. And then there was the cross-examination on the Schiff report. To me, the sweet moment was the examination of Jonathan Goldman by, is it Doug Collins, Representative Doug Collins, questioning his political bias and who was responsible for the leaking of the private phone information. Was it Schiff or Goldman himself? Now, to me, that one is worth looking up, and you'll have to sift through an awful lot of impeachment footage to get a look at it, but it's worth it. To me, the sweet moment was that look like Goldman was a wet puppy who'd just been beaten by his master. It was worth sitting through 11 hours of video. But what the heck? Impeachment will go ahead. From the outset, it has been a process in search of a crime to achieve a desired outcome. What was that desired outcome? Well, Representative Al Green said it succinctly: if we don't impeach him, he will be re-elected. We all understand that politics is a tough, dirty business, but why this special hatred for Trump? Is it because they care about racism, and Trump apparently is a racist, so they say? Well, if Trump is a racist, as his opponents claim, he would have to be one of the world's most incompetent racists. His son-in-law is a Jew, while in business he kept giving Mexicans and Latinos jobs. He keeps getting jobs for black people while he is in office. On the other hand, Democrats couldn't even get up a generic hate is not a good idea resolution through the House when 2 of their own Muslim representatives, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, spouted clearly anti-Jewish hatred over and over again. And let's not forget that the Democratic Party is and always has been the party of the Ku Klux Klan. No, these people don't care about racism, and really they couldn't care less if Trump had actually been a racist. They only want to use it to serve their own agenda. Nor do they care about Trump's alleged misogyny. Now, Trump has a past as an adulterer, and let's not beat about the bush. But his opponents do the same and actually cover for those among them who do actually rape and mistreat women until their cover-ups become untenable. You just look at the Harvey Weinstein affair, for one thing. Nor do they actually care about corruption, nor actually obstruction of justice. Do you remember the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton emails? How emails that had actually been subpoenaed by Congress mysteriously disappeared, and multiple devices accidentally fell under a sledgehammer? Well, where was the outcry over that? No, they don't actually care about corruption as long as it's corruption on their side. And nor is it that they actually care about lies. Now, I don't actually read Trump as a liar. Trump is a showman. His whole life has been about self-promotion. And his methods, like I am the greatest and everybody is going to be there, that's Trump. No, in fact, I agree with Tucker Carlson. They hate Trump because he is telling the truth. For years, Trump's critics voted that they need to keep out illegal immigrants, and yet they did nothing about it. Trump said they needed a wall, and then suddenly they acted. Trump called out the corruption of the Obama administration and the Clintons. He has done things that they said could never be done. Manufacturing jobs will never come back to the US, and blow me down, Trump has managed to get them back. And the more he has continued to tell the truth about the establishment, how they actually run down the country, the more his opponents get into a flap and try to unseat him. So, shall we talk corruption? The Ukrainian situation illustrates very well what I'm talking about. I commend to you an excellent telling of the story by Glen Beck on Blaze TV. I'll try to remember to put it down on the description down below so that you can watch it. It's well worth a look. Glen Beck lays out the events related to the Ukrainian thing in chronological order and who's who and that sort of thing. And he lays it out, and the way he lays it out is actually beyond the scope of this video. But let's understand a few basic facts that are critical to this impeachment business. Hunter Biden gets a job with a corrupt Ukrainian company, not because of any skills or business experience, but because his dad was the American vice president. Corruption in the Ukraine is endemic. One prosecutor, Shokin, was investigating this company when Schiff when Biden used American aid money as leverage to get this investigator fired. And Biden bragged about it. It's there on video. So, a new president, Volodymyr Zelensky, gets elected in the Ukraine on a platform of fighting corruption. The administration withholds a new round of military aid to see how things work out there. And once he is satisfied that Zelensky was the real deal, the aid was released. Perfectly in line with our foreign aid. Because to tell you the truth, nobody just gives away money for no reason whatsoever. Foreign aid, no matter what the country, has something that it is given for, and it is expected that that money is going to be used for that purpose. So this is the background to the phone calls in the impeachment process. Do you see why Trump's opponents hate him so much? He is showing them up on corruption, on the economy, on national security, and they are running scared enough to try absolutely anything and everything to remove him from office. One can understand how daddy might help a youngster get a job. But Hunter Biden is a middle-aged ne'er-do-well who was kicked out of the Navy because he tested positive for cocaine use. He had no knowledge of the energy industry, nor of the Ukraine. And how did he get that job? Was it about access to the Vice President of the US? Maybe. But given that billions of dollars of US aid for the Ukraine's energy industry mysteriously disappeared. Refer back to Glen Beck. Could it have been some sort of money laundering operation at work here? Just asking. They hated Trump from the outset and were upset that the electorate rejected Hillary Clinton, the world's suckiest candidate, in favour of a loud, brash millionaire for New York. And so if they couldn't beat Trump fairly, then impeachment is the next best option. This Ukraine thing offers Democrats a few opportunities. One, hopefully it gets rid of Trump, but it also protects Joe Biden. I suggest that this last point, protecting Joe Biden, is what Nancy Pelosi is on about. I suggest that protecting Joe Biden is what made Nancy Pelosi turn from resisting actual impeachment to what we see now. As Democrat Al Green said, and I said it before, if we don't impeach him, he will get elected. But here is what I think this impeachment business is really about. America was just one election away from fulfilling the Democrat dream of a one-party socialist state, or as Obama called it, fundamentally altering America. Study any coup, if you like. Watch Valkyrie, the movie about the plot to assassinate Hitler and mount the coup to overthrow him. For any coup to succeed, they have to have the guys with the guns, they have to have the judiciary and law enforcement, and they also have to control the information that the people receive. The coup in question here, of course, is not the classic type with the guns rolling down the main street of Washington, but over the years, and particularly under the 8 years of the Obama presidency, law enforcement, the judiciary, the media, and the education system have all been politicised. The guys with the guns? Well, the military is still loyal to their oath to protect the Constitution, but still, if you can get the presidency, what can happen? Because the president is the commander-in-chief of the military. In the US, the guys with the guns are also the people. So can you see the importance of the gun control debate over there and anywhere else? Maybe just talk to the citizens of Hong Kong at the moment. I'm not a journalist, nor am I a political analyst. but I am a bloke who can watch and observe and put things together. Thankfully, more and more people in the US are learning to put two and two together with what is going on in their political realm. I, for one, look forward to an impeachment resolution, and I'm sure it's a foregone conclusion, because then impeachment will have to go to the Senate, where hopefully President Trump will at last get his day in court, where the rules have not been rigged against him, but where there will be proper rules of evidence, proper cross-examination of witnesses, where both sides can bring in their own witnesses, and hopefully those witnesses will include Schiff, Nadler and the Bidens. And if that's the case, bring it on.